Hello, everyone, and thank you for your interest in SAP manufacturing. We have a very exciting story to talk about with Howdens Joinery. They're UK's leading kitchen supplier. They have a really interesting journey from homegrown to the on-prem legacy world and into the world of cloud with digital manufacturing. We're joined today with Dave from Howdens. He is our manufacturing systems technology lead at Howdens, providing leadership and really industry expertise in their project and visionary look forward into what they're doing for the manufacturing piece. Joined with him today is also Martin from our engineering industry excellence, who's a partner for SAP here, leading the charge, helping guide the project, make sure that all the I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and that everybody's happy with the project and also with the vision for manufacturing going forward today. When we talk about manufacturing and we get into the strategy for manufacturing for SAP, there's really it's really threefold. When we push the cloud strategy and we start investing in what we're doing in cloud, it comes with a certain level of hesitancy in the market. We hear customers say, "Well, will cloud work for us?" In the past, we haven't used cloud for the manufacturing space, and of course, that's one of the risks that we're always trying to balance, mitigate, and explain. On the other side of that is the reward side, right? When we look at what is the value that cloud brings? Well, it's perpetually young. It's something that we can always take advantage of. Some of the latest features, technology, the cost of ownership on the IT side is certainly much lower because SAP is maintaining and managing the platform, the application, the content for you, over time, in addition to innovating new technologies, things like AI, additional integrations to different products within the supply chain portfolio. And, this is what's really allowing us to bring different kind of scale and a different approach to the manufacturing layer. One of the cool things that you'll hear about today is exactly how Howdens is taking advantage of not just the cool technology of cloud and the platform, but really putting the digital manufacturing application to work for them. And with that, we'll turn it over to Martin and Dave.
Thanks, there, Sam, for the intro. So Dave, let's sort of kind of kick this discussion off, right, by maybe give us some insights into the Howden organization.
Thanks, Martin. So Howdens is the UK's leading kitchen supplier, selling through trade only. We were founded in 1995 with 14 depots, and we've since grown to over 900 through UK and Europe. We have 5 main manufacturing sites in the UK and 3 PDCs, one in Howden, one in Runcorn, and one in Raunds, where we distribute all our products to our depot network throughout the UK, France, and Ireland. I've been with Howdens for over 20 years now, working in IT, doing various roles from supporting machines, developing applications, and I'm now currently the IS Systems Technical Lead for Howdens. And part of my role is looking forward to the future of digital manufacturing and OT systems.
Okay, thanks for the intro, Dave. So to give our audience an idea of scale of how big Howden is, right? So how many kitchen cabinets are you making a year?
Last year we produced around about 4.5 million cabs, and we've done that consistently for the last couple of years. And again, last year we distributed over 44 million pieces out to our depot through our supply chain network. So we're a reasonably big organization. We make what it makes sense for us to make in the UK. So currently we manufacture between 35 and 40% of all the products we sell through our depot network here in the UK.
Okay, so that's a lot of kitchens being sold, isn't it? I'm not quite sure where they're going, but certainly someone is buying them.
It certainly is. And it's in the UK, the average consumer keeps their kitchen for around about 7 years. So yeah, how we're selling so many and where they're all going, I don't know.
Well, that's good for business, though, right? Isn't it?
It definitely is. Yeah.
And to get control of all of these, millions of units that you're making, and I remember when I went to your factory, you even sort of like start off with making the actual material for the carcasses themselves, right? And you've been implementing MES for quite a long time, so you're not a novice company. So could you kind of take us back to where you started from an MES perspective? And then the business drivers to why you wanted to go within implementing a new system.
Absolutely. So we started our SAP journey in manufacturing in 2007. So 2007 was when we implemented SAP into our manufacturing sites. We at the time looked at what SAP's offering was and also what was out on the marketplace, and we didn't really think that anything there would fit how we wanted to operate. So we went about building and architecting our own MES system. Over the last 10 years, we've evolved that product. So we've made it more integrated, more automated with all our production lines. So we have around about 140 production lines that we've got our MES sat around or working alongside. And it's become more and more automated. But around about 2020, we realized and recognized that it was no longer a sustainable product. The technology platforms had significantly changed. A lot of people were going to cloud. A lot of the offerings that were now available on the marketplace were cloud first. And as an internal team, our team dynamics had changed, and we didn't have the same team structures to support the product. It was taking us longer and longer to get changes out and make deployments. So we had a bit of a review. So we went out to marketplace to see what was available. We looked at a number of offerings, and because we're an SAP customer at the core, it made sense to look at SAP's offering alongside that. So that's what we did. We went out and ran some different tenders, and we selected SAP's ME solution, and we basically just really dove straight in. We had a new production line, a lamination line that was being brought in, and we knew that the time was right to change. So we went away, and with some help from a SAP expert, we went and did some customizations, and we implemented MEMII within about a 12-month period. That was pretty successful, but as I said, we just dove in. We didn't have a lot of experience. We had a very small team. We wanted to make sure that we had internal people that understood the product and could then help evolve the product. And that's where we realized that we needed a long-term partner. So we looked in the marketplace, and we found Industrial Excellence and Martin, and they've then since helped us on that journey. So we talked to Industrial Excellence, and they gave us some great insights into initially MEMII, but then SAP had then recently released Digital Manufacturing. So we used a project with Industrial Excellence to give us a proof of concept for digital manufacturing on our current existing lamination line, so that we could basically assess the solution against SAP's MEMII. And I think that was a really good turning point for us. It made us realize that the product from SAP is so vast that we were going to need that help and that support. But it also gave us a great lot of insight into the capabilities of the product, and where we would need to make changes or enhance the product in some kind of way. I guess now we're in a situation where we've done a couple of implementations based on that proof of concept. So we implemented over a 12-month period to the paint to order facility, which was a brand new facility, and then we've since done Howden work surface offering and put digital manufacturing in there, and that was all really from some of the insights that Industrial Excellence gave us.
Yeah, that's really, really great to hear. It's an interesting discussion around the evolution, right, from a homegrown environment all the way to, the SAP standard of MEMII in the on-prem, world, but then, making that leap, almost in line, right? It seems like it felt very comfortable, right? Moving from MEMII to the digital manufacturing space. Martin, can you talk a little bit about how, engineering, industry excellence, and you in particular were help providing guidance around what Howden should do next, and, where the priorities should be, and, what their plan for rollout would look like?
Yeah, thanks there, Sam. So as kind of Dave alluded to, we were part of their early journey, into looking at digital manufacturing. And effectively what we did is that we took our MEMI experience, and we engaged with Dave and his team, did a number of workshops, etc., where we configured digital manufacturing as close as we could at that time. We're talking about 2022, in the summer of 2022 now, so quite a few years ago. And of course, then since then, digital manufacturing has increased in capability and functionality and so on. But at that time, we did what I call a compare and contrast. So what was the blueprint on ME? Could we replicate that blueprint into DM, if I use DM as a short abbreviation? And we did that exercise. And then afterwards, we had a number of workshops where we went, well, this is how we use this, how do we configure this function? This is how we implemented that function. So we had a very transparent discussion on what DM could do and couldn't do, right? And then based on that output, then David and his organization went forward with DM, right? But what was quite interesting, though, is that in that exercise, we did highlight that there were a couple of gaps, right, here and there. And the question then came, how could we kind of fill those gaps? And one of those was printing, actually. And this is quite interesting, Sam, because I remember looking at one of your slides, probably way back in, I don't know, 21 or 22, something like that, right? Where you were talking about hybrid landscapes for MES. Like you were talking about DM in the cloud, of course, and then having and leveraging your on-premise applications like MII, if and when you need to have elements of digital capability. So we took that hybrid approach, and we, with Dave's team, of course, the implementation on their paint to order line, actually utilized their existing MII solution, or they said that the software, managed all the printing capability, connected it to DM, and off we went, right? So we all kind of knew we were going in a journey, and that we could leverage existing software assets to continue. And then on top of that, though, Dave didn't really mention, but we had quite a tight time period to do that first project, didn't we? Like 12 months, I think, if I remember. So there was a driving business need. So we couldn't really wait for solutions to come down the road in terms of what was built in standards. So having MII available at that time allowed us to then, deliver that project on time within that business timescale.
I guess that led us as well on, by doing that proof of concept, it also led us to realize that when we started the implementation for paint to order, things like lot management wasn't available, and we knew that we were going to have to build something. So again, with the experience of industrial excellence, we realized that we could extend the product, and we then developed our own scanning solution and pod plugins that when you started a particular order in a pod, it looked at what the sales order was and found all the production orders associated with the sales order and started all them in one go, rather than the operator having to go through half a dozen different items in the pod and starting each one.
Yeah, and that was, we had to work our way through that solution, didn't we, Dave, if I remember rightly, because the business use case at the time was, this particular site, paint to order, is a make to order facility. And you imagine the kitchen in your own home, right? You go to a kitchen shop and you choose standard colors, right? So what Howden is now doing, they offer multiple colors to the customer. And so you're thinking about a paint shop. In a paint shop, you've got multiple door panels you want to paint at the same time, or multiple customer orders. So we had to find a solution for that. And this is where Dave and his team went out and built a solution on the BTP platform and then just connected it to DM, right? So again, we could find solutions where there wasn't solutions at the time. But of course, if you look at DM now, the concept of process lots is there available as standard where you could actually manage that process today.
If we'd have waited for that, Martin, we'd only just be implementing. So we managed to leverage the capabilities of the solution at the time by utilizing the other tools around it to make something that worked for us.
I think that goes back to some of Sam's slides. You kind of see where he talks about hybrid landscapes and using other technologies to develop the gaps where you have missing features and functions, right? All required integrations. And I think to give the audience an idea of scale, Dave, could you just quickly say, well, how many when you went live in 23, let's say the end of 23, how many production orders you were processing and then what you're doing today?
So paint to order, as Martin said, was a unique offering for our customers where they could select the colour from a secondary set of colours that we paint for them of their kitchen carcasses. When we went live, we were producing, in June 2003, we produced about 3,000 pieces. That equated to about 100 unique customer orders. And if we take 2024, in total in 2024, we produced 130,000 pieces for over 5,000 unique customer orders. And that's all or partly due to the capabilities of having digital manufacturing in there, so that we were able to take those orders in from customers, from our depots, and then process them in a timely manner. And it's worth pointing out that we have like a 14-day lead time from the customer ordering in the depot to us getting those out back to the depot for the customer. It's a really tight timeline, and we wouldn't have been able to do that and achieve that without having digital manufacturing in the mix.
I think, thanks for sharing it. I think also quite interesting is just the sheer scale of growth in 12 months, right? In terms of the product you put to the marketplace, but also, and also DM was able to manage with the massive increase in percentage of growth in transactions, right?
Yeah, we've definitely, we've not noticed any real impacts of increasing the volumes. The system's not slowed down at all. It's doing what it does, which is fantastic.
And which is good. I think that's always, people think about the cloud, right? The more transactions you may throw at the cloud, is there going to be degradation in performance? I think that example says no, right?
And it sounds like you were able to, also leverage some of that power of that central environment because you're able to use from multiple sites that same landscape, right? It's not a different landscape that you're setting up between one plant and the next, where you install a separate system and configure it on its own. It's a central environment that you're reusing, across the two. That probably helps speed up the timelines, for the multi.
Absolutely. So when we then moved on to the next project, so taking Howdens work surfaces, we'd got all the integrations between our ECC on-prem system and digital manufacturing. We didn't have to do all that configuration. All we had to do was change some of the configuration within it to allow us to send the orders from a different plant through to DM, to change the order types or create new order types with the right profiles and routines for the new plant that met the needs of the new plant. So once you've set up the initial framework, actually rolling it out to other places is quite simplistic.
Yeah, perfect. That's great. And when you talk about rolling it out to the other places, or even to the original project, can you talk a little bit about what the last mile looks like, between the level 3 and the level 2 environment, right? Your MES and the plant automation engineering, so that IT OT convergence and what you're doing there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things that we're focused quite heavily on at the moment. So when we started with paint to order, we didn't really do any integration at all. But as we moved into our work surface site and our new decor line site, then we've increased that automation. So, for example, at the work surface site, we have some processes that we're now talking directly to machinery, using things like Plant Connector to send orders down to the machine. But we're also using custom BTP processors as well to do that sort of interaction, because as we know, all the OEMs that people deal with have all got different protocols that they use. They implement technologies in different ways. So you might be talking to some kind of PLC data block, or you can be talking to a SCADA solution that's got its own APIs or its own extensions. You might be talking to SQL databases. There's lots of different technology types. And what we found, certainly with the couple that we've implemented so far, is they're always different. But having digital manufacturing there and having the tools that it comes with have allowed us to overcome those solutions. So at the moment we are using custom BTP processors to talk to a bespoke OT control system. We're using Production Connector via OPC to talk to data tags and also a SQL database. We've got CPI that we have got DM talking to send text files to a machine with cutting patterns. There's just 3 or 4 there. And as we replace our legacy systems, there might be older databases or different control systems that we're going to have to deal with. So also, when we bring new machines in, we could be talking with APIs and different message queues. But the beauty is the product's got all those different technologies available for you to use. It's just about picking the right ones that work for you.
That's an interesting discussion around standards versus just the heterogeneous nature of manufacturing, right? Every vendor, every equipment in every location, and how that changes over time with the different products that you're introducing, with the continuous innovation from the plant ground up. That's an interesting topic. Probably there's some lessons learned, I would imagine. There's probably some interesting highlights that you'd want to share with the community too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think where our learnings are that while it was really good to jump in, actually we're at a position now where we're trying to take a bit of a step back and look at some of the core DNA that we need to get right, or that we need to have in place to help us move even quicker. So as a really simple example, sticking with like the connections and the integrations, the cloud connector that we initially implemented, we just implemented one. We didn't have a shadow. So when it comes to upgrading that, we have to somehow take the system down to upgrade that system. If we'd have put the shadow in when we started, actually keeping the upgrades going, we could cut over to the shadow system, upgrade that, and then upgrade the production as we need to. Same with the production connector. The way that we've deployed the production connectors, we need to consider understanding the business processes and how they work currently and potentially need to work in the future. That it opens a lot of different opportunities and windows for the way that you think about how you're going to implement these processes. And that, I think that's been one of our challenges, is that it's very easy to get caught in the mindset of doing what you do today. But with the tools and the technology that's now available, you need to be quite open minded to have a bit of a rethink. One of our goals going forward is to have operators that have a more natural production process, so they don't have to go to 10 different systems and enter things or select things and interact. They can almost do the process that they want to do, or that's part of the production process, and the systems can detect what they're doing. So like with our new J line that we've got that produces decor panels, that's one of the things that we've been trying to get DM to do, is to almost orchestrate that whole process. So we send a job into the first machine, and when we get signals back off that machine telling us that it's started or completed or produced a stack, the system in terms of digital manufacturing is then moving the order on to the next production line in that process, starting it, stopping it, and we're constantly getting feedback from that machine until it's got to the end point where we've created our production labels and it's ready then for an operator to take it off a stack. Now, through that whole process, the operator's not interacting really with digital manufacturing at all. All they're doing is launching the next job on the machine. And in the background, digital manufacturing's orchestrating all that, which is a massive advantage.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, reduction of clicks, allowing people to focus on their job rather than focus on the systems, right? Having the environment that they work in, reacting to the invisible hand of MES, right? I mean, that's really the goal of MES, is to be more of the invisible hand to provide guidance and, in support, rather than you know, something that you have to manually, push and kick all the time, right? So that's really good to hear. And is there any other, good, bad, things, comments you'd want to make about it?
Yeah, well, so I think one of the other things that we have, or two of the other things that we've taken advantage of. So within the work surface site, because we can see what's going on in our production process now, we're feeding all that information in terms of the status of the orders back into the customer call center applications. So we have some bespoke applications that they use for managing customer queries, and they've now got the visibility of where those production orders are through the production process. So when we get a depot query in to find out if their order's being started, the call center can see that. They don't have to go onto the shop floor or get a hold of a production manager to find out. It's at their fingertips. And I can see that extending in future across our whole manufacturing estate. So we have real detailed tracking of where everything is. One of the other really, I think, cool things that we've sort of almost fallen into is leveraging some of the other SAP technologies. So, for example, DataSphere. We a couple of years ago, more than a couple of years ago, we tried building the concept of a control tower, and it was good, but it was really complicated. What DM and DataSphere have allowed us to do is we've realized that we can extract all the data out of digital manufacturing for our downtime and stoppages and our production orders. We can get all that same information from our legacy MES systems and also MEMII. We've now built a dashboard that allows factory managers, continuous improvement engineers, all to go in and see that data rather than having to report on it all manually. So we have a big thing at the moment where we're trying to remove paper from the shop floor, and these guys are constantly printing reports out on downtime data, but that downtime data is for yesterday. Now that we've extracted all that data into DataSphere and we've created some SAC reports, they've got that data real time, so hour by hour, at the fingertips, and that's going to have a massive difference for our organization from a manufacturing perspective, because we can change things that are going wrong now, not change things that went wrong yesterday. And that really has been a something that, like I said, we almost fell into, trying to get some information out of the systems, and realize that actually there's other tools that are sat around digital manufacturing where you can process data out of to then give you another view of your data set.
Oh, that's really great. Very powerful, right? You have the legacy, right, environment. You have the world of today within the, in cloud. You have a common view of analytics over the top. You have insights to action, right? So you have the ability to influence production in real time. That's a really powerful story end to end. That's great to hear.
And I think it's only going to get better as we get into, like, we've not even touched on the possibilities of AI, but when we can give that data set to AI engines, then what's it going to be able to tell us? Rather than people analyzing the data, it can then start sending alerts out when it starts seeing common patterns for us to go and do things.
It's a brave new world with the agentic AI piece, for sure. Anyway, that's something that we on the SAP side are very excited about, right? It's a key investment technology we have with cloud. It's a big value proposition across all of our applications. It's very rapidly moving space because of exactly what you just said, right? You can, as a person, you can only consume so much information, so much data at any given moment. You can only understand so many applications across, all of supply chain or even all of your organization. And an agent can do that, much cleaner, much quicker, and provide a guiding light of what maybe you should do, right? Hey, here's some suggestions. Saw this, saw this. What do you think about these suggestions? Mr. Human, or Mrs. Human, whoever you are. Human in the loop is still, always an important piece to it. Um, with that point, I do get asked, and I'll have a question for you, I guess, that will come out of it. Um, Human in the loop. How long do you think that would be the preferred mechanism, right? Where AI is making proposals versus AI is actually making the decisions for you. Just a fun thought exercise.
I think there's always going to be some need to have the human there in at some level, but I definitely think there are going to be decisions that we can start handing over to the AI once we start understanding that sort of rule set and its capabilities. I guess it all depends on ensuring that you've got that reliable, good quality data, because the AI can only work on the data, and it's got to be good quality. If the data is unreliable, then you're not going to be sure of the decisions that it's going to make. Whereas if you can maintain that high standard, and your data quality is really good, then I think you'll be willing to give up more and more.
I think that's a really good point. And as a human, of course, if you're the data in front of you, if you know it's not good or you feel like it's missing just from your expertise, you could go manually do it, right? An AI environment doesn't really have that option to just kind of walk around and talk to people and ask, what's going on. Well, I mean, not yet anyway, right? But at the same time, I guess that's the big limitation, right, at the moment. So that's an interesting point around data quality standards, and what a common platform would mean. So I appreciate the insight, Dave.
And I think that's where the data sphere is really adding insight for us. It's made us realize that yes, we've got lots of different bits of siloed data everywhere within our manufacturing supply chain, and it's how we can start slowly bringing them together. So the piece I was talking about earlier about downtime and stoppages, we've got all the production data in there as well. And one of the things that we're quite keen to do going forward is look at energy data. A lot of our machines have substation, or a lot of our factories have substations, and the machines have energy management modules on them. So it's like, can we start tapping into that? Is that DM, or is that something else that's tapping it in? But at least it's allowing us to bring the data back to a central point so we can start doing all that analysis with it.
It sounds, Dave, you're on an incredible journey, right? So you've done four projects so far on DM. So just very, very quickly at the end here, which I have one more question for you, if I may, which is, I know in the short term you want to go back to paint to order, and it's a kind of rip and replace that legacy MII solution with standard DM functionality, right? So I know that's on the to-do list, is to rip that out, right? What's your plan on the lamination line? Because there you still have ME and MII, and then beyond lamination line, what's your vision afterwards?
Yes, paint to order. The first thing is to remove all the MEMII transactions, replace those with all the DM technology that's now available, and we're hoping to do that this year. Alongside that, we want to take MEMII out of the lamination line, so we're kicking off a piece of work to do a new discovery piece. The lamination line is quite interesting because it's not really a process that we'd had a lot of experience with. So we for a long time. So the last couple of years has been about learning the technology and learning the processes. So we're going to actually review that whole process with our operations team, understand now what they want, how they want it to function and work, but look at building all that with digital manufacturing. Taking the learnings that we've got from paint to order, from Howden work surfaces, from the J lines, and sort of building hopefully a standard set of pods work for any lamination line. And so that sort of leads us into that future. Is ultimately what we want to do then is remove all our legacy MES out of our systems, and digital manufacturing becomes our MES of choice. But as part of doing that, what we need to do is go back to some of those digital manufacturing core and things like making sure we understand and define the core business processes. So yes, we make kitchens, but as you said, Martin, we make all the subcomponents for a cabinet. So we make panels, we make rails, we make worktops, and they're all separate individual business processes. So what we want to do is review those and design default template pods from a DM perspective, so that when we do get a new panel production line, we've got a set of template pods that we can apply to there. Or exactly, it almost becomes like a set of plugins that you can just plug together. It's almost like Lego, I guess, is the best. You've pre-canned components that you can stick together in a certain way, and sometimes that might be a pod, but other times that might be just some orchestration, so that you're moving away from operators interacting with another system and they're just doing their normal interaction with the line control systems. And so over the next 12 to 18 months, that's what we want to sort of get after and get into. And along the way, it's about introducing things like work instructions, so removing paper from our shop floor, make all our drawings digital and make them available digital to the operators, so they don't have to get a book out and look through a book to find out what they're actually manufacturing. They can click on the production order and they can see a visual representation of the product. Look at moving things like quality inspections. So again, at the moment, our quality process is all offline. It's all paper-based. People are measuring things, writing things down on bits of paper, and then coming and consolidating all those. We want to look at turning on quality inspection lots, getting those through, and doing all that digitally. So it's all about picking the different elements that DM's got to offer and looking at how we implement them. I mean, that is one of the real downsides of digital manufacturing. It's so big. It's a fantastic problem. The challenge is when you start with it, and how do you then chunk it up into bite sizes so that you can actually get after things, rather than just sitting there worrying about, well, how am I going to implement all these things? And I think one of my takeaways is, look, just find something that you want to get after and do that first. Don't really worry about all the other and once you've got that working, then bite something else off.
No, that's really good advice, right? That set your priority, set your focus, find your scope, and just keep going. That was something that we noticed, early on in our MES journey a long time ago, is really you can build MES in any direction almost as far as you want to go. There's, the way manufacturing works is it is really an endless, landscape of innovation, people, process, products, all that stuff is changing pretty quickly. So building to support those environments and the needs of, that location, that's really good. I appreciate that insight.
I think, we can keep chatting for ages on this particular topic, right? But we have to bring this session to an end. So I'd like to say this, thanks, Dave. But Sam, could you kind of summarize some takeaways? What you've learned from our discussion with Dave?
Yeah, for me, I mean, Dave, the insight, the project, the thought leadership, all very, very useful information. I appreciate you taking the time, to share that, with us, and also, with the broader community that's, enjoying our show here. A couple of things that I heard, that I was really excited about, right? You had a nice journey along the way, right? You had homegrown to manufacturing suite, and then now taking advantage in power of cloud. And you're seeing the advantages of the maturity curve that you've been walking along this, along with this journey. You've had good guidance, right, from a very strong partner in the manufacturing space that's been, in lockstep with SAP all along the way and continues to be, a good guide for you, right? Somebody who sit down, understand your business needs, understand your production needs, and keeping up with the technology and the pace of innovation and change of technology in order to walk that innovation curve and minimize technical debt over that period of time. So this those are some pretty important points that I would take away from it. In addition to the ability of starting from the level 4, level 3, and then working your way where appropriate down to level 2 to really reduce the operator load, right? And what their tasks and what their jobs look like, and being very tactical. This area here is a quick win, right? We can easily get into this data, or this area over here was a lot of interaction back and forth, right? How do we mitigate that interaction so that it's moderate or eliminated from the environment? So I thought that approach of level 4 to level 3, then where needed to level 2, and continuing that refinement of the level 2 piece. I thought that was really really good to hear. It'd be interesting to hear about a little the workforce, labor skills, certification management. We talked a little bit about what it takes to to run and operate pieces of equipment. I feel like that's always a good area, right? Your workforce, your people. You talked a lot about the experience, in managing that experience today. I thought that was also a really good topic.
Yeah, it's something that we're keeping an eye on. So our first dip into that is going to be managing all the shifts within the factory environments. And like I said, we do keep looking at, but I don't think we've got that. We've not found that sort of sweet spot, or that real winning initiative yet that will help us implement in that. But I can definitely see for some of the more complex processes that we run, that will be a key piece for us.
Thank you, Dave. The Howden story really is, an inspirational one. It was really good to hear, the honest and open, discussion on what your journey has looked like, where you saw, a lot of value, where you're seeing, interesting hurdles, and how you overcome them with the technology platform and the applications around manufacturing. And Martin, of course, it's really nice to see. See the leadership for that engineering industry's excellence is providing, how long you've been with this customer as a trusted advisor, and how you've helped them through their journey, right, and seeing value continuously through this process. So with that, big thank you, for taking the time today to speak with us and to share your story, share your insight, and your thought leadership with the broader community for manufacturing. Before we close out, I'd like to point out we have our ARC research report on SAP Digital Manufacturing that was released. It's a deep dive into how manufacturers are seeing the value of SAP Digital Manufacturing and our move into cloud, and what that looks like from a broader sense. And then, of course, you can find out lots of additional information from our website. Lots of really good resources, a lot of a big broad community that we've built up over the years, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. So with that, Dave, Martin, I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
Okay, just like to say thanks, guys. Thanks for the discussion.
Yep. Look forward to doing this again in a couple of years.
No, definitely. We'll have loads more stories.
Cheers, everybody. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.